Hi everyone, and welcome to our new podcast series. My name is Lajos Kemény. I'm the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Dermatology, the official journal of the International Society of Dermatology. The goal of this new podcast series is to introduce our distinguished authors and to discuss about the recent papers published in the International Journal of Dermatology. Today's episode is my great pleasure to welcome Professor Henry Lim, the president of the International League of Dermatological Societies. So, Henry, I'm really delighted to have you in our podcast discussion today. Welcome.
Lajos, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for having accepted the two papers and published in IJD.
But before we could discuss about the papers, I would like to introduce Professor Henry Lim. He's the former Clarence of Livingwood Chair and Chairman of the Department of Dermatology at Henry Ford Health, Detroit, Michigan, USA. He completed his dermatology residency at the New York University School of Medicine. Dr. Lim has served as the president of the American Academy of Dermatology, the American Board of Dermatology, the American Dermatological Association, the American Society of Photobiology, and the International Union of Photobiology. In 2023, he was elected the president of the International League of Dermatological Societies, an organization comprising more than 200 dermatological societies over 100 countries, representing 180,000 dermatologists worldwide. He was awarded honorary membership of the American Academy of Dermatology in 2020, and in March 2026, he will receive the IJD Gold Medal, the highest honor bestowed by the American Academy of Dermatology. Dr. Lim has received numerous additional awards and holds honorary membership in multiple international dermatological societies. He published more than 700 papers, receiving more than 40,000 citations, and his H index is over 100. So this is really amazing, and we are very happy to have you here in our podcast series. So, Henry, you published with a distinguished group of authors two excellent papers about the problems of skin of color. And could you tell us a few words about this topic? Why did you think that the IJD will be the proper place to publish these papers? And what are the main problems with the naming and with the classification of different skin types?
Well, first of all, Lajos, thank you very much for having me. Indeed, when we thought about submission for this two-parts paper, we thought that it require a journal that has an international audience, because clearly the topic that we cover is on skin of color, specifically the various manifestations and gaps in knowledge in patients and individuals with skin of color. And IJD, being an international journal with a wide reach audience around the globe, being the official official publication of International Society of Dermatology, we thought this is an appropriate journal for us to publish so that we can reach the appropriate audience for this topic. The topic that we cover actually is a very important one worldwide, because we know that the demographic of all the patients that we are seeing, including in the US, including in Europe, are changing. They are much more diverse. The skin tones and the skin color are much more diverse. So we all are obligated to be able to learn more about them and to be able to properly manage the conditions in a patient with skin of color so that we can get a better outcome for our patients.
Yeah, Actually, what we have learned about the different skin types, I'm an old guy already, and we were learning about this Fitzpatrick skin types, from Fitzpatrick type 1 to type 6. And we all know that this is not a proper classification, but do you know better one?
Very, very timely and very good questions. This is a topic that is actively discussed, actively researched in multiple societies, because we know we all use the Fitzpatrick skin type. It's very practical, very quick. We can do it very quickly in the clinic. But we all know also, as we pointed out in the paper, that there are limitations to that. It is not the most accurate, the most objective classifications. There have been quite a number, and we summarize this in the paper, quite a number of proposed classification. Again, none of them is ideal, and I must say none of them has been integrated and used by the general practicing dermatologists. Still, Fitzpatrick skin type is the one that is being used. So right now we are in ILDS is looking into this very intensely, and hopefully we'll come up with a classification system that would be much more practical on that. But still, this is work in progress. It's a very important topic, though.
Yeah, having seen the excellent list of authors, the co-authors in your paper, I suppose that at the end of the day, we will have a new classification, a new one, and a new one that is accepted by this distinguished group of authors and would solve our problems. But to be honest, now we could identify the problems, and I'm very happy to hear that ILDS is working on that, maybe a new classification system, and I would be really pleased if this new classification system would be published in our journal, in the International Journal of Dermatology. Please. So going into details, we are frequently confused with the different terminology, races and geographic types, and it would be really great to have a new one that is can be used clinically, because clinically it is really important, because different skin types could have different clinical manifestations and even different treatments. And what do you think? What was the major point in your two papers that is maybe the most important ones? I know that many different points are important, but from clinical aspects, which disease or condition would be that one when the skin of color is really important? It does matter.
Questions. They are, as you mentioned, they are indeed many important topics, but probably if you want me to select one that is most relevant and most important for patients and individuals with skin of color, probably is pigmentation. Because we know that with this group of individuals, acne, for example, a simple acne in a skin type 1 or fair skin individual, once the acne is resolved, you may get post-inflammatory erythema, which may last for maybe a few months and it goes away. But in darker skin individual, and practicing Detroit, we see a very large variety of skin types. In darker skin individual, the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation would last sometimes years, and is very, very disturbing for this individual. Likewise, with any type of post-inflammatory changes secondary to injury, secondary to melasma, for example, it is very significant for this group individual. So pigmentary alteration. Vitiligo is another example of that. And in fair skin individual, I'm not minimizing it because psychologically it's very impactful for this individual in a negative sense. But in a darker skin individual, having vitiligo is very noticeable by the general public. And so the psychological impact is even higher for darker skin individuals. So that is probably the most important one.
Yeah, I know that you are probably the #1 photobiologist in the world, and your main research area is photobiology. And in the recent years, it became more and more important, the role of visible light affecting the skin. Could you tell a few words about the role of visible light, especially in context of skin of color?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, this is an area that our group has been very interested in for many years. Several years ago, about 10 years ago, we did studies looking at the effect of pure visible light on individuals with skin of color. What we found is that individual with skin of color would get significant, fairly intense and long-lasting hyperpigmentation upon exposure to visible light. Because up to that point, we all thought visible light is photobiologically inert. We all need it for general illumination purposes for life, essentially. But we did not know that there were significant alterations on the pigmentation. So that's what we found. It is intense, and it is long-lasting. And this has been confirmed by multiple groups now. We know that it is especially the blue-violet spectrum of visible light that is mostly responsible for that. We know the mechanism now in terms of the molecular mechanism for that. And that is important because in a practical sense, we know sunscreen, the filters in sunscreen are UV filter. They are designed to filter out and to absorb ultraviolet light, be it ultraviolet B, ultraviolet A, but they are not designed to filter out or to block visible light, because in order to block visible light, it is a challenge because it has to be visible. Topically, it has to be visible so that it would reflect the visible light. It gets into our retina and we can perceive the light being reflected. And because of that, it will be white on the skin. And there comes the challenge that for the so-called tinted sunscreen, which is still currently the best treatment or the best prevention of visible light-induced changes on the skin. There are limitations to that. Not only the color match is an issue, but also it does rub off on the skin, so it stains clothing, just like tinted makeup would be. So we still have a lot of activities, a lot of research in the photoprotection field on that particular topic.
Yeah, when we are talking about photoprotection, and we have in the UVB range, we can measure with the sun protection factor SPF. But the problem is with the UVA is a little bit different. It's more difficult, but especially with the visible light. How can you measure what is the intensity, what is the efficacy of an agent to block visible light-induced changes? Are there any measures or?
Lajos, it's so great talking to another photobiologist, because that is actually another topic that we have been very actively discussing. And a group of us just organized a visible light photoprotection consensus conference right after the EADV in early October in Amsterdam to look at this very topic. What we did is that we got a group of experts who had worked on visible light to discuss about this very topic as to how to properly assess the protectiveness of products that contain visible light photoprotection, so that eventually it can be used and be recognized by the general public. Because I think the regulatory agencies are probably not going to work on this for several years to come. It is important for our consumers, for the general public to have that. So that paper currently is being written up.
Yeah, that would be a proper place for that publication in the International Journal of Dermatology. But actually, when we are talking about the photobiology and visible light, I remember we had a great study checking the NIVI number in identical twins who were treated because of neonatal jaundice with blue light or not. We published that in different journals, including in the New England Journal of Medicine. And those twins who were treated with blue light because of the hyperbilirubinemia, they developed 10 to 15 years later more NIVI. So this is could be interesting, and if you are working on such a field, it would be useful to consider also these tiny topics, but it's actually important topic.
Yes, absolutely. You're ahead of your time, of our time.
What would you suggest for young dermatologists? Why to be involved in research in general, And how do you see the education of younger generations in skin of color, especially in this context?
Well, I think as we all know, that dermatology is one of the most competitive specialties around the world. It is truly a great specialty, but I think the important part that it is great, I think we all need to recognize, is that because the specialty has advanced over the year to be much more scientifically grounded, to understand the basic mechanism for the various diseases better, those are direct result of the investigation, be it clinical research, be it basic science research, be it translational research, to be able to get that stage. So it is important for us to have the new generation of dermatologists coming in to continue the work that we all have done, so that the field can continue to move forward, so that we can have a proper standing, very solid standing, which we do have now in the House of Medicine. They all know that now dermatology has very good science behind us. We have very good science in developing treatments for diseases, and that is important for the new generation to come in to continue to do that. One, it is intellectually more stimulating. Number two, it benefits our patient. It makes our job as a physician be much more satisfying.
Yeah, you have many different positions, and now you are probably the highest position what a dermatologist can achieve as the president of the International League of Dermatological Societies. Could you tell a few words about this society, that maybe that not everyone have heard about the society and the role and the tasks of this society? If somebody wants to join, how to do it? And
yeah, it is a unique society. So I think the closest analogy I can give is that this is like a United Nation of dermatology, because essentially it is a society that consists of member societies, meaning we don't have individual membership. You and I cannot join as an individual, but the American Academy of Dermatology, the European Academy of Dermatology, the British Association of Dermatology, all these national dermatological societies, they are members of the ILDS. So ILDS, that's the reason we have over 200 societies, because some of the specialty societies in different countries also can become a member. And because of that, it has a very wide reach throughout the globe. And we have a board of directors that come and selected from different parts of the world. We divided the world into different areas based on the UN classifications. And then we have representations in the board of directors from different regions of the world. And because of that, we are truly the voice of dermatology globally. We are the only societies that has an official relation status. This is sort of the official term used by WHO. So we have official relation status with WHO, meaning that we have official interactions with WHO. In fact, I personally, together with our leaders, physically visit in person the WHO headquarters every year. In between, we have many other meetings that is ongoing. There's several sections with WHO that we work very closely with. So there's one aspect that we do. The other aspect that we do is that we have International Foundation of Dermatology. That is our arm to provide fundings for many of the developing countries for projects. That includes from starting projects in their own country, or matching the training program there with training program in a more developed country, to the benefit of both. We always look at it as a mutual bilateral exchange rather than just one-way street. And that is being given every 2 years. We match 6 pairs per year. Then we have the World Congress of Dermatology, which probably is most well-known one. Every 4 years, the last one was in Singapore. The one that is coming up in 2027 in Guadalajara, Mexico. Again, the selection of the site is done by the General Assembly of the ILDS. Their bidding cities, and the General Assembly would decide where to go.
Yeah, so this is also the place of the advertisement of our forthcoming World Congress in Mexico. So Yeah. So thank you very much, Harry, for joining us today. And I wish you a lot of success in your new position, and congratulations for you for your AAD medal, the highest award of the American Academy of Dermatology. Thank you very much for being us with today.
Lajos, thank you very much for the kind words, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.